Hello, welcome to the Full Octane Garage. Today's topic is going to be how did the 2019 Bugatti Chiron end up at a West Palm Beach Copart auction? Let's get right to it. Okay, so this Bugatti was owned by a rapper, and I'm probably going to hack his name up because I have no idea who he is, but it was Rapper El Alfa, and he had a $3 million plus Bugatti Chiron, and he had it in some of his rapper videos. And in October of 2021, it was believed that one of his rivals had actually vandalized the car and set it on fire. And you can see from these pictures that it actually had some extensive damage to the left front end. Somebody probably lit some kind of a cocktail, threw it on the car, caught it on fire. The carbon fiber likes to burn, so it caught fire. It did burn. They were able to get it out. The damage on the car was pretty significant. At least it looked pretty significant on the interior before Copart cleaned it up. I did find some historical pictures where the interior looked really bad. You'll see in some of these shots. And Copart did a fantastic job of cleaning this car up and getting it ready for auction. Now this car has had at least one failed auction. It's actually bid up to over $1 million in auction, and they shut the auction down, they reset the auction, and currently the car is bid up to $346,000, and that's for a $3 million plus car. And that sounds really cheap. You think, okay, well, I can get a fender, I can get a new tire for it, I can get a trunk, I can fix some wiring in there. Now this is a running car. I believe it would be a running driving car if it wasn't for them being worried about the brakes. So they haven't actually driven the car, I don't believe, but it does start up in the Copart videos. Sounds awesome. So what's the catch? The catch is that this is being sold with a Florida certificate title of destruction. Now what does that mean? That in most circumstances means that that car now has a death certificate, and a death certificate means it will never legally be on a U.S. road. What that's going to mean is that car could only be used or built back as a display car. It could be built back as maybe a track car, or it could be exported to another country where they may not care about these certificate of destructions. But the intent of a certificate of destruction from Copart is that the car will be sold to a dismantler, they will dismantle the car, and they will destruct the carcass or what's left of the car, so it would never be titled as a U.S. valid vehicle. There are often cars that go through Copart that have what they call a salvage or repairable title, and those can be driven on the road again. Now, what my sources at Copart have told me is, why would an insurance company, and this insurance company is State Farm, why would State Farm present this car, and they're the ones that dictate whether it's being sold as salvage or rebuildable or certificate of destruction? Why would an insurance company impact the value that they could get for this car? So if they sold this car as a rebuildable car, they could probably get a significant amount more of money than they are selling it as a certificate of destruction. So why would they do that? Sources close to Copart tell me that often when an insurance company suspects fraudulent activity, they will post the car as a certificate of destruction. And this is to prevent an insured from doing some damage to a vehicle and causing it to be a total loss, getting their payout from the insurance company, and then turning around and buying the car back at pennies on the dollar, fixing it up, putting it back on the road for a significant amount less than they actually got paid out. There were some rings in California many years ago that this all started with, where basically a car would get stolen, the person stealing the car was actually the owner of the car. They would actually pull the engine, pull a lot of the parts off, and then a carcass would go to auction. They would buy that carcass back after they got a payout, and then they would mysteriously find all the serial numbered parts to put back on the car, and they would have a car. So the insurance companies got smart on this and said, we're going to do certificate of destructions on these cars that we suspect fraudulent activity on. There's probably other reasons. I guess if a vehicle is deemed totally unsafe, they may want to put a certificate of destruction on it. If there's some trauma associated with the car, they may want to have a certificate of destruction. But it's all up to the insurance company to make that determination when they run it through a Copart auction. So this vehicle is being sent through with a certificate of destruction. The current bid is $346,000 on a car that's valued at over $3 million. Could parts be gotten from Bugatti? Yes, parts could be if it wasn't sold as a certificate of destruction. So once it's sold as a certificate of destruction, I have been told that the manufacturer is not required to support new parts for a car. Normally a manufacturer is required to support a car for 10 years. Once a car has been totaled and certificate of destruction, it is not required, the manufacturer is no longer required to provide parts for that car. I have seen a few YouTube videos where people have done some research on this particular Bugatti, talked to Bugatti corporate. Bugatti corporate says no, as long as it's sold as a certificate of destruction, we are not going to sell parts to this car. So you're going to either have to get used parts, recreate parts for it, which is going to be very challenging. There may be some Bugatti Veyron parts that are compatible from a mechanical standpoint, but in general, this car is going to be a real challenge to rebuild. Now, with that said, there are a number of YouTubers out there that have been clearing their collections out, getting funds ready, I believe, to buy this car. Now, they may have something up their sleeve that only a few, I'll say, the more shadier crews know. There are ways to cleanse a title. Now, this is such a high-profile car, there's going to be a ton of risk with doing this. But my understanding is if you were to take that title and go to Kentucky, rebuild that car, you could get what they call a red title. A red title is only negotiable in several states. So you would either have to keep the car registered in Kentucky or one of the other states that would recognize a red title. And the red title means that it was a salvage car and it was potentially rebuilt. Now, my understanding is also you could take it to Mississippi, where a title could be turned into a rebuilt title once you've rebuilt the car. I don't know how kosher all of this is. I know through my sources that it has been done before, but it's been done with much lower profile vehicles. So I don't suspect that this type of a profile vehicle would actually run through that scenario, but it's highly likely that many of these YouTube channels that rebuild salvage cars are looking at ways and angles to buy this car for $400,000 or $500,000. You know, throw another $500,000 in a rebuild, have $1 million in a particular car that's worth $3 million. Ed Bullion, for one, is one that likes storied cars. He's done a video on this. Not sure that he is totally interested in this car, but I suspect that he, along with a number of other YouTubers, and I will have a separate video coming with my speculation. It's going to be Kurt's speculation on what YouTubers might be interested in buying this car and how much they might be willing to pay for this car. But for now, the car is back on auction for a future sale date. It is being sold with no reserve. The current bid is $346,000. At that kind of money, it's basically an expensive piece of art you're buying because you're not going to be able to drive it on the roads. There could be an overseas bidder in this. An overseas bidder might be willing to take this into a country, rebuild it, and drive it in that country. The problem they're going to run into is with a vehicle of this value, there's going to be some export issues. There's going to be export taxes when you go into a country. They're going to look at this car as a $3 million car, when in fact they may have only paid $500,000 or $600,000. I predict that this will be the cheapest running Bugatti sold in the US, and that would be something Hoovy's Garage would be very interested in, but I don't believe he's going to be interested in this one because he wants to be able to drive them on the street, and this is one that I don't think that even Hoovy can tackle. So anyways, that's how the Bugatti Chiron actually got at a Copart lot. I believe that there's going to be more to this story as we move forward. There's still no clear idea of which one of his rivals did this to the car, but it's significant damage. I didn't even know State Farm would insure a Bugatti. This is shocking to me. We do collector car and exotic car insurance, and we have sources that we go to, and State Farm is never even on our radar for a multi-million-dollar exotic car, and that's certainly not a place that I would be putting a multi-million-dollar exotic car. There are much better places to put expensive cars like this at true agreed value. The Rapper probably got bought out at a market value, which would have been more realistic to what they call a Kelley Blue Book. There's probably not a Kelley Blue Book on a Bugatti, but I suspect it's probably much less than they would have been able to get on an agreed value policy. So there's more to this story, more to come. Look for my next video coming up on my speculation of who's going to buy this car or what they're going to do with it. Thanks for being with us at the Full Octane Garage. Come back for some cool content in the near future, and as always, we look forward to having you back.